everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to continue focusing on self compassion today and really looking at some different activities that focus on how do we give that compassion to ourselves, just like we do to everyone else. Again, as we talked about last week, we work in a field where we give so much to other people. It takes a lot of our energy and a lot of our focus to care for the clients that we serve, but we often don't give that same care and attention back to ourselves. And it's even harder when we're not practicing that self compassion to deal with any of the doubt that may creep in about our effectiveness within our job. And as we talked about within the first podcast, that doubt about our efficacy is one of the major contributors to burnout and one of the first signs that someone is experiencing burnout within their profession. So, we're going to start off with just kind of some other activities about practicing self compassion. We are often critical about ourselves, but we're very willing to listen to a friend or perform, an act of kindness for someone else when they are in need. We provide that listening ear, we offer compassion, we offer support. But oftentimes, again, like we've already talked about, offering compassion towards ourselves is difficult or challenging in times. And it's a skill that we often really need to spend some time focusing on and learning how to do better. And it can help us to bounce back from a setback more quickly. So I'd like you to take a moment and think about a difficult situation that you've recently dealt with at work. You can write down maybe a sentence or two or even a couple paragraphs outlining the situation, or if you don't have something to write with, just visualize it and picture in your mind what occurred during the situation. Take a moment to reflect on what you're writing about or what you wrote down or what you visualized. And how are you interpreting these events or interactions? What are you telling yourself about what occurred? Now shift gears and imagine that it was your friend telling you this same exact story, that this was something that happened to them. How would you respond? What would you say? What actions would you suggest that they take? In what ways would you offer them compassion and support? Now switch it once again and bring it back to yourself. All these things that you would say and do for your friend, how would you do them for yourself? How would you put it into practice for you when you really needed it? Maybe even consider a barrier that you may be experiencing as to why you can do this for a friend, but you can't do this for yourself. And what steps you might need to take to remove that barrier so you are offering yourself that self compassion. Now, I'd like to take you into a second exercise. It's very similar to this one. And this is really kind of offering an opportunity to manage the self doubt a little bit more. And this may be even one that we need to do when we're experiencing those barriers of comforting and giving ourselves the support that we need that we wouldn't necessarily give to a friend. So we've all been in those clinical situations where we doubt our own expertise, where we may feel helpless or overwhelmed, or maybe even feel like we failed. So I want you to imagine that experience, or maybe it's even the same experience you just originally thought of. And I want you to kind of just recognize to start with that we've all been there. some of us many times. But as you're thinking of that situation or you're rereading what you wrote, just gently close your eyes and bring to mind a mentor or a person who cares about you and carries well wishes for you naturally. This mentor could be a professional mentor, or it could be someone else in your life. Maybe it was a former teacher or a coach. Maybe it's a spiritual leader, or maybe it's a family member. But anyone that you can think of that has that well wishing mentality for you. If a person is hard to identify, you may choose an animal, you know, one of your pets, or a being, maybe a spiritual being again. Anything that helps you feel safe and loved. You might imagine this loving being extending a sense of worth towards you. Maybe imagining a hand on your shoulder or being held in some way. Any form of connection between you and this being who's giving you that support and that sense of worth, who's showing you that care and compassion. Then, building on this image, invite additional beings who have shown kindness to you in big or small ways to join. You might imagine all of these beings connecting around you in a circle, sending love to you. Notice what you feel in your heart region and allow your body to soften as the circle continues to expand, knowing that you are being held in love and compassion. Now I'd like for you to just kind of take a moment and reflect on how these two exercises felt. What did they bring to you? And how might you do these on a more regular basis if it's something that you felt connected to and you felt kind of that empowerment and that compassion within these exercises? And just allow yourself to notice what you're feeling right now and if anything has changed about any of the doubt or any of the stress that you have felt over the week as you kind of brought that situation to mind. And if it changes the way that you look at that situation and look at yourself in those moments. Okay, so now our activity is going to shift a little bit into changing perspectives about how we view these situations that we are experiencing that may be creating some of the self doubt. This one is known as sidestepping the story, and it also comes from the anti-burnout card deck, which I introduced to you last week. And it starts off with a recognition that many of us believe that we are not good enough at managing clients in crisis. Almost all of us have a past client that we feel that we have failed in some way as we watch them maybe relapse or self-destruct or even just disappear from treatment. So I'd like for you to bring to mind a story of a time where you felt not good enough or even a failure with a past or current client. Maybe it's even the same situation that you thought of earlier. Are you willing to merely notice that this is a negatively toned story you are thinking of now in this moment? Are you willing to view it as a story instead of being in it? What is the most skillful way to relate to the story so it opens things up for you in your work? And what does your experience say rather than your mind? And maybe even take a time to reflect to yourself, what other negative stories might you be holding on to that's impacting your belief about the work that you do? So, overall, can you take a step outside of the event and look at them as just being stories, looking them at those, though maybe even that they're movies that you're watching, taking yourself out of them so that you're not reacting to the event itself, but just looking at it and being able to observe it objectively without any labeling, without any judgment, and being able to maybe see what you truly see there. And taking the opportunity to perhaps see it as a lesson, something that you can learn from, rather than something that you have to be ashamed of or feel as though you're a failure about. The one question, what does your experience say, rather than your mind, is also really important. When we get stuck inside the story, it's really easy for us to miss that some of the things that we put on ourselves are just normal interactions that happen within the mental health field. We know that relapse is normal. We know that some people are going to self destruct, regardless of what we're doing with them. And we also know that some people are just going to disengage from treatment. So, is it necessarily something that we did wrong, or is this just kind of what exists within mental health? But that doesn't mean that we don't have the opportunity to reflect back on that and think about to ourselves, what am I learning from this story? What are some signs that I may be able to look for in someone else? So I may be able to prevent this another time or recognize it when it's happening and help that client. But it's not anything that you did that was necessarily wrong or inappropriate. It may just truly be the nature of the situation. Or if, as you step outside this story, maybe you do see something that you should have done differently, and you can take it as a learning experience. And that's the best part of it. What do you learn from it instead of what are you hiding from? Now, with these three activities, what I would encourage everyone to do after that you've been able to reflect some on these different events is then to work towards creating an affirmation. I'm a strong believer in affirmations. I think, whatever those positive statements that we make towards ourselves, having those statements kind of thrown out there in the universe is more likely for them to come true. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Does that sound familiar to anybody? But remembering that words are powerful, they hold energy and can shape our thoughts and shift our perspectives. An affirmation is an inspirational phrase that you say to yourself daily to feel motivated and change limiting beliefs. So create an affirmation and write it out on a sticky note, on a page in your notebook, or somewhere where you will see it often. Consider creating yourself a ritual where you repeat your affirmations to yourself at the same time every day. Start your affirmations with one of these prompts: I am, I can, I create, I allow, or I trust. A few examples to help you get started might be: I am confident. I create quality work that makes a positive impact. I trust my skills and abilities. And so when we are seeing that self-doubt creep in, or we're reflecting on things that happen throughout the work, we can go back to these affirmations and we can tell ourselves, I am this, I do this, and I can create this. So lastly, this is a little bit of a shorter episode today because we're getting more into the activities as opposed to a little bit more about, or a little less, about kind of research and what is out there kind of in the literature about self-care within the mental health profession. But I want to wind up today with a loving kindness meditation to oneself. We all come into work, really with the intention to offer compassion to others, but we can only do that when we practice offering compassion to ourselves. I can't say that enough. So take a moment, sit back, relax, close your eyes if you want to do so, or let your gaze soften. and spend a few moments with your anchor. Now, this may be the sound of your breath or the feel of your breath. So maybe you place your hand on your heart and another one on your belly and feel as you breathe in and out. Maybe it's just noticing the heartbeat. Perhaps it's a sound in your room. Maybe the sound of your watch ticking. Maybe it's a sensation that you're feeling, whatever anchors you to this present moment. Just take that time to allow yourself to connect with that and allow your mind to clear of any negative or unwanted thoughts or distracting thoughts. And if any do pop in your head, just acknowledge them and bring yourself back to your anchor. Allow your body to settle, noting any tension or discomfort, and invite it to just soften. Begin by directing kindness toward yourself with some traditional phrases of kindness. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. May I be peaceful. Choose words that evoke for you a feeling of soothing, loving kindness. Say the phrases silently to yourself and see if you can open up to the offering and receiving of each phrase. If one phrase in particular speaks to you, stay with it. You might imagine each phrase as gentle rain falling on parched soil. Experiment with conjuring an image that evokes safety, health, peace, and ease. If it seems to enrich your senses of loving kindness, continue visualizing this image. If your mind wanders, return to the phrases or images, letting them become your anchor. Now allow your mind to return back to the present moment. Return back to your anchor of your breath, or your heartbeat, or the sounds or sensations. And as you do this, allow that loving and kindness to continue to flow with you into the present moment. And go ahead when you're ready, just take a deep breath in through your nose, and a gentle sigh out through your mouth. Go Go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes. Gently move your body. And lastly, when you feel comfortable, do so. Go ahead and open your eyes and reorient yourself to the room around you. And as your day continues, see if you can carry this stance of loving kindness towards yourself into your next activity, your next events for the day. And always remember, you can do this activity throughout your day when you need to take that moment to give yourself that compassionate break. So I hope you found these activities today enlightening. I hope there are some things that you found that you might be able to use within your own practice. And I encourage you to pick one or two that you would like to try throughout the week towards your own building self-care toolbox. And as usual, take care of yourself, practice good self-care, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thank you for joining me.